Welcome back to The Graphic, the podcast on, for now, the Laurence McKenna channel. We will today be speaking about the fallout between Liverpool and Manchester United. Who is going to win the Premier League? What format of competition you would like to compete in if you are Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United, Chelsea, and lots of other sides, and brand new formats which are coming out from people who just want more money. We will speak about the Champions League draw. We will speak about why Liverpool went in the Europa League draw, and we will speak about whether the Europa Conference League is like worth winning. Yeah.
Sounds like a lot.
Pretty packed podcast, actually. Yeah, we should start though, Jamie, welcome.
Thanks, mate.
We should start with, I think, probably the fallout from Liverpool, Manchester United, because, well, first of all, I just kind of want your overall thoughts on what you thought of the game, and then I'll break down kind of where my thoughts came from.
The game was kind of defined by the expectation that Liverpool were going to just roll it over. You maybe saw that in the atmosphere. You maybe saw that in the way United set up. They kind of bought into the fact that like they might get battered. So the game was kind of like preset. In terms of the crowd maybe being not quite at it.
That was a weird piece of commentary, by the way. I feel like Gary Neville was so worried that United were going to lose or concede that he was trying to get like almost cheap shots in. And it felt a little bit strange. He kept mentioning it like it was like, I've never seen the crowd like this. I've never seen the crowd like this. Not for a big game. And I was like, yeah, because this is just like, it's such a nothing game right now. It's so...
But that's what I mean. Like the fact that it was a nothing game, like the difference between the sides kind of dampened the occasion. You know when it wouldn't have dampened the occasion is if Liverpool had scored in the first five. Everyone would have gone, oh, let's get up for this.
They looked pretty... That was probably one of the two periods in the game where they looked most likely to score. And then outside of that, I actually don't think Liverpool created anything clear-cut enough. The statistics of highest number of shots, it was like 35 shots come the end of the game. Still a high number of shots, I think at half-time, about half that. Onana has made the most saves and not conceded since David De Gea made 9 saves in the game. I think Onana made 8.
But I don't think he made any brilliant saves.
I think the only one of note was the one from Virgil van Dijk's header, maybe, where he sort of very routinely pushed it up and over the bar, and it was like, cool, well, do better.
Yeah, because you were saying off there that you're fairly critical of the way, not United set up exactly, but you're saying, well, United fans who... Well,
so it wasn't so much... Here's what happened to me during and post-game. So obviously I watched the game at home with my family, and you know, half my family are like Chelsea fans, half are Liverpool fans. Obviously, some are blood relations, they're the Liverpool fans. Some are Chelsea fans, they're not blood relations. I'd never be related by blood to a Chelsea fan. It's a joke. But the point is, like, within that, everyone was just like, oh, why are United not playing? And so I kind of have that energy from an outside Manchester United energy, right? But from inside Manchester United, I feel like this season, some of the fan channels have maybe done a disservice to Manchester United fans, and some of the people in charge of the Manchester United narratives have maybe just done a bad job of telling the story, because there is a bit of a tendency at the moment to maybe pander to whatever fan base it is that you skew towards. So maybe some people accuse me of skewing towards Liverpool. I think that's probably fair enough, but there are loads of moments where I'm relatively critical of the team. When your team's like second in the league, it's hard to be super critical, but I still think there are a lot of issues. My point on the game, so I was chatting to Cams and a couple of other guys on their show afterwards, right? And I was saying, Cam said, United should get credit for their defending. Now, whilst I agree with that, I was then on the SofaScore app, right? And then I looked at Manchester United's average positions. Varane's like sat on the front of basically on the edge of Manchester United's own box, and Johnny Evans isn't far ahead of him. It's not a bad shape, but it's about 15, 20 yards further down the pitch than it is meant to be up the pitch. So whilst United should get credit for defending, it's very rudimentary levels of defending. It's not what I would call a Manchester United way of defending. And I understand the expectations have changed at this point in the season, and therefore people go, well, if we treat it by the expectation of Manchester United fans, because last season they lost 7-0, well, with all due respect, last season they shouldn't have lost 7-0 either. They finished top 3 in the league, they got into the Champions League, and were representatives of England in Europe, costing us a coefficient place, by the way, through poor performances, finishing 4th in the group, which is the only top 4 they'll probably get this season. And
ouch.
ouch, but a good burn.
Burn.
To be honest, I dropped that one in there just because it was a good burn.
Great burn.
I don't even really know if I believe it. Like,
Great burn.
There's probably an outside chance that Manchester United get top 4, but actually no.
You know what?
But just to add to that, just to land, let me land, should we say? My point was then the fans should feel disappointed by, yes, support your team. Yes, say it's good to go and get a point at Anfield. But within relative terms, this is not good. In the overall grand scheme picture, whatever you want to call it, this is bad. You've gone to Anfield and had to sit so deep, you've not even had to. You sat deep with no need to. With the side that was fielded of... Let me find it. Luke Shaw, Rafa Varane, Johnny Evans, Diogo Dalot, Kobbie Mainoo, Sofian Amrabat, Garnacho, McTominay, Anthony, Hojlund.
So there's 2 points in here. The first is I think they probably did need to sit deep to get a result. Mm-hmm. I think Liverpool are too good transitionally.
Yeah.
That had they gone forward, they probably would have conceded.
Yeah.
The second thing is United fans should be disappointed in this like late at night existential way. Oh, the direction of the season's gone backwards. Why are we in this cycle again?
Yeah.
But on the day, they should be buzzing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
so
that's what I find weird.
But I think they should be buzzing on the day. I think in their quieter moments, away from Twitter and fan channels, they might go, damn it, we are really in the cycle of a season of progress, season of regression.
So what do you do with that?
Well, as far as they're concerned, yesterday, celebrate.
Yeah, and I get that, right? And maybe you use it as a point to like climb from, but the United players will all know, like you could see the amount of yellow cards, the frustration, all these kind of things. They all knew this isn't good.
But it's like there's like levels of issues here. The issue of how the club is run and how the expectations have reversed is too lofty an issue to tackle when Mo Salah's running at you.
Absolutely.
So I think Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool is worth saying. I have no idea if it was because they had like a weird week where half the players travelled and half didn't.
Sure.
Or whether it's...
And I get that, but like, I don't even think that should be an excuse in the first place. Like, they literally flew out, flew back. Like, they will have been looking at this, like, they will have been looking at the Manchester United game for ages. Even though Manchester United should have... shouldn't have sat that deep. Liverpool will have, they had more than enough opportunities or the opportunity to create opportunities. None of these points all of these are points to avoid the fact that Manchester United were poor. And I mean poor as in the sense they set out and to be poor and were poor. And Liverpool were also poor at their finishing. Like Liverpool's finishing was bad.
Poor's a relative.
Liverpool didn't take them to the sword. Liverpool should have done that. Gary Neville was going, well, Liverpool have been poor today. I think Liverpool, the narrative that is written doesn't match what I'm seeing out there. What I'm seeing out there is a Manchester United team sitting super deep and a Manchester United team who have every right to play whatever style of football to achieve whatever goal it is that they want. That's absolutely fine. The point is, though, that's relegation fodder style of football. So you can be proud of the point, but in relative terms, not really.
Well, but it is relative. So Liverpool were poor in the final third. Their decision-making was poor. They snatched at stuff. They were good until the final third. But the other side of that is United allowed them, as you say, the ball.
Yeah.
Like Liverpool did the bit that they were allowed to do well, which is control territory, have shots on target, shots on goal and stuff. But where it really mattered, they were sloppy.
Yeah.
And Szoboszlai looked exhausted. Salah didn't have his best day. I mean, Liverpool basically didn't figure out the low block, which can happen, especially in the middle of the season when you're knackered, etc. But I think United were quite good, given that, I took a foundation GCSE where C was the top grade you could get for French. And I got in and I got my C. And that was a decent display, given I got the top grade. But I was taking a foundation paper. That was Man United yesterday.
That's kind of what I'm saying here.
But when the results got out, I wasn't going, damn it, I got a C.
But right.
I was going buzzing, I got a C.
But the point is, if you are the A-star student within the class and you're taking the foundation paper, you're thrilled with the result, but you're not going to Oxford or Cambridge and going, you see my foundation C? And that's no slight on people who aren't able to take a paper to get an A-star.
And actually,
the point is that you shouldn't say to the people who are capable of the A-star, well, aim for the C, because...
Yeah, and it's actually I'm end up being a decent analogy here, because it was the only foundation, it was the only great subject in which I was aiming for a C.
Right.
But I really was. So it's like, when I started my GCSE career, I probably was more ambitious in French.
Right.
But then it got to the day, and I thought, or the month, and I thought, Christ help us, a point at Anfield. Let me sit really deep, i.e.,
And that
try
kind
not
of works.
to mess up my speaking exam.
Right, like that kind of works in that sense because, like Manchester United were, like they've got other areas to concentrate. Like you probably have with the GCSEs. There are other bigger fish to fry. But here's what I don't get about it. Right, you've just crashed out of the Champions League to Bayern Munich. You are in a bit of a slide, but not really in a bit of a slide. You're really, and I keep going back to this with Manchester United. My criticism is not of the fans can't support, they're plastic, they're all these things. My point is the fans are being let down by the way the club is being run right now, that Manchester United have to turn up at Anfield and play that kind of that is not a reflection of the fans don't support the team, so the team aren't playing well or any of these things. This is the fans are great fans. The fans fill Old Trafford every week, whether they are, whether win, lose or draw. And that point never seems to land. Maybe because I say it the wrong way, where I criticise Manchester United fans never really get to the fans. But for me, it seems evident that is a criticism of the ownership and the system.
But you'll know this one as a Liverpool fan, right? There have been periods where...
This is what I'm saying.
Not to sound like Roy Keane here for a second. There have been periods where Liverpool have struggled and will have gone to Old Trafford and got a point and gone, hell yeah, that works for us. So it is something to celebrate. But as you say, you're kind of in... Put it this way, you'd rather be United than Liverpool. But today, you'd rather be Liverpool.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's that again.
Yeah.
Rather than the kid who took a proper fit French GCSE, got an A, not an A star.
Yeah.
I'm buzzing with my C, they're gutted with their A.
Exactly.
But tomorrow, after results day, which one would you rather have?
I think I wouldn't mind being in either luxury. I think there's also the relative luxury of both positions, right?
Yeah.
So Manchester United are still competing relatively in the top half of the Premier League table, probably the top quarter, just about edging the top quarter at the moment, right? And would be if other teams hadn't improved to such a great degree. But that's
Villa,
also
etc.
damning of where Manchester United are right now, because other teams have proven with basically a couple of signings. And it's not like Villa have completely gotten rid of a full team and redone the Gerrard side. There are a lot of players in there who played under Gerrard.
Martinez, McGinn, Watkins are the three key men.
The three spine players, but then there's a number of other players who have probably...
You might look at Pau Torres or something and go, he's been... I take your points.
But the point still stands, right? It's not like it's a complete gutting of a team. And I think that's kind of my point here is Manchester United, the fans deserve better than just this lazy narrative, which I get, is probably because a lot of people aren't sure. What you tend to find is when you aren't sure of where things go, people just sit on the fence. And it's very easy for analysts at the moment, such as Roy Keane or Gary Neville or any of these guys, to fence sit or essentially make points which aren't really points.
Such
and
as?
That's what isn't Virgil van Dijk arrogant? Liverpool have only won one title in 30 years. Well, Van Dijk's been there for just under maybe a sixth, or maybe at best a quarter of that. So he can only impact so much of it. And the other aspect of the investigations that are going on with Man City, okay, so suddenly if Van Dijk has 3 in 30 years, does that make a massive difference to you? Not really. It's talking about being in the moment. And Van Dijk wasn't speaking as Liverpool Football Club. He's speaking as Van Dijk and this current Liverpool side, which is they came to not play. They didn't come to win the game. And if they were going to win the game, it was by a snatch and grab, right? Which wasn't going to improve the style of football overall in the season at Manchester United, which is actually what they need right now. They do not need... this is not a side going into this season who should have been saying, let's go and snatch a point at Anfield or even snatch a win. The expectation in everyone's predictions were second, maybe third. Everyone. Manchester United or Liverpool fans. And maybe there are a few people who go, well, I saw the drop-off. Sure, that's cool. Maybe you were being edgy. Maybe you had an idea. I don't think anyone had Manchester United outside their top 4 or far off it.
Yeah, I mean, Van Dijk's, it's a little bit of a weird one. He's not being arrogant, he's being frustrated.
He's frustrated, and he's also wants to win a title. If Liverpool had won, they'd have gone top of the table. And if you flip it, I think like you said earlier, and Manchester United say whatever.
If Man United celebrated, Roy Keane would have gone, it's a disgrace, you're Manchester United. You need to go and try and win the football game.
Right.
Stand up, be a man, there's 11 of you, there's 11 of that. You can imagine it. So actually, Roy Keane probably agreed with Van Dijk if the framing was a bit different.
And, and I get that. Again, it comes down to the, how can I put it, the man that Roy Keane is, that he is still competitive with Liverpool even post-career.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't give them this win,
Yeah.
which I like. Like, that's something to appreciate. Some people might call that toxic or whatever. I think it's great. Like, yes.
It's a cool dynamic.
Keep it up.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool. You hate Liverpool, and that's a good thing. Like, it's all right to not like a team.
Liverpool, in my mind, are further from the title today than they were on Saturday. Is that your take as well?
I think it always takes a big game and a magnifying glass or the ire of a lot of people to make like a mass realization. But anyone who's watched the channel for a while is going to know that I've been saying Liverpool have been getting away with a few games, or not in like a get away where they're terrible, but in a way where they've sort of struggled through those games.
Like Fulham. Like they were decent, but Alexander-Arnold got them out of trouble.
Yeah.
Enzo got them out of trouble.
And on top of that, they weren't finishing chances or all these kind of things. Those chickens came home to roost. And that's okay, right? They didn't lose the game, so I'm not devastated by it. But they looked way more vulnerable than they needed to, and Liverpool should have won that game very convincingly, but they didn't.
Arsenal and Aston Villa are the only two sides sort of in that top five who have been, at least for the last month and a half, relatively consistent.
Villa have the momentum now, but earlier on in the season they weren't consistent. Liverpool beat
Villa's
3-0.
away form is still fairly suspect.
Yeah.
When they went to goal down against Brentford, I thought, that's the issue.
And they had a late rally, so it's not like they were like dominant for the whole game. Arsenal were dominant for that whole game this weekend. It was basically the Arsenal show with a side of scare.
Yeah, and Kai Havertz is now, there was this whole thing of like, what does he do? Why is Arteta rocked to the boat? His answer at the time would have been, because we're trying to develop into something better and more well-rounded. And it's slowly coming to fruition. It's too early to say properly, but like they have another goal threat all of a sudden. And Kai Havertz, despite really struggling as a 9, and bless him, he's not really a 9, is always kind of at the back post.
And I think that's kind of the point. Is it seems I read a headline. I can't remember whose Twitter it was. It might have been, I can't remember off the top of my head. But they were talking about how Arsenal have sort of become the meta in football, or are the current meta. They're the current kind of model. I think a lot of people are looking at a lot of they're confused by a lot of systems. It's hard to read how Liverpool's midfield currently functions overall as an ecosystem. It's hard to read how Arsenal's midfield functions overall as an ecosystem. There are like some confusing pieces where you kind of look at it and go, like, that was what we were talking about with Dom Szoboszlai, right? And the same goes for Havertz. Havertz and Szoboszlai are like almost mirror images of each other in a way, but yeah, that kind of works. But Szoboszlai just doesn't go inverted ego X outside, whereas Kai Havertz comes inside. But they both cover so much ground and are such like hookup players. They're almost like the modern version of a Gini Wijnaldum type player.
But more is required of you going forward, kind of. That's the evolution.
Yeah, and Gini did do quite a bit going forward, and in a modern team, I think he would be that like Szoboszlai Havertz type.
Do you think so? He'd be that advanced?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Because you obviously watch a lot more Liverpool than me.
Yeah.
For me, I think of Wijnaldum as like the late run to the edge.
Sure.
As opposed to the more controlling, hey, if you give it to me, I'll give it back.
And that's what I was kind of, like, I think that's what I mean is that's what he would be now. I'm not saying, I think that's what that position has evolved into.
Right.
And that's where, I mean, even you can see they literally updated Granit Xhaka to Kai Havertz. That's like a Pokemon evolution almost.
Just speaking of evolution, I just want to quickly mention Trent Alexander-Arnold, who, it was interesting because while his execution wasn't always brilliant,
I think Liverpool's passing was really just sloppy yesterday in general. Like overhit, underhit, not quite accurate.
and he was not immune to that totally.
No.
But the positions he plays up and the responsibility he took. I'm now going to sound like Danny Murphy on Match of the Day when someone scores and then when they miss a pass, like, but look at him take responsibility. But I am making that point.
Sure.
You know, and he was the one kind of at the edge of the box making, like, he had that shot that almost went in. He was putting balls in the box. He was taking a game that was a little bit slow and forcing the issue in a good way. And it was interesting to see him take responsibility because Garnacho is a bit of a nightmare to play against, to be honest. He stays wide and, like, I know he tracked back, but I think if you're a Premier League right back at the moment,
you wouldn't want to play.
It's not Doku, but it's like not a million. It's like the next level down.
He's got a level. He's also got the possibility. There's always going to be something brilliant that sort of comes from him. So you're kind of like, oh, what are you going to do in this?
And by the way, I haven't seen this mentioned post match, but Alexander-Arnold's toe on the who was it?
on the running through bit.
Yeah, who was it running through? Was it Garnacho?
I think it was Garnacho.
Yeah, it was crucial.
Oh, absolutely. But Liverpool just shouldn't have been in a position where that should have mattered. Liverpool should have been like 2-0 up or whatever at that point and just cruising away.
Isn't it interesting how like crowd and expectation are almost like inverse? So the higher the expectation, the lower the crowd. So
that's another massive aspect. Yeah.
After he got in, the Liverpool, it was like 10 minutes of let's go, 5 minutes of let's go. Because it was like, shit, there's jeopardy here. United could win this. Whereas no one had worked out that United could have won it. Everyone was like, this is either 0-0 or 1-0 Liverpool.
And I get that. Like, I can appreciate Manchester United playing this counter-attacking football. And that is separate to me from what else they were trying to achieve or what they should be trying to achieve. And people go, well, you don't decide what Manchester United want to achieve at the start of the season. No, but I can hold people for what they said Manchester United will be at the start of the season. And I think Manchester United overall look at themselves and go, are we doing what we thought we were going to do at the start of the season? I don't think they are.
No, there's no doubt about that. The other thing about United worth pointing out, and I haven't heard a better explanation for this than it's the new manager bounce wearing off, or whether the players just decide they're bored of a manager. But this is the fourth manager in a row, more or less, leaving out interims, where they've had a year of genuine progress.
And then a dip.
And a dip so big that it actually makes me question the thinking behind, hey, here's a 3-year plan, here's a 5-year plan. Because typically with a 3 or 5 year plan, you think, year 1, mid-table, year 2, top half, year 3, whatever it is. But the two have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
And it's only United being so shit that's made me realise this. You can finish 8th and not kick on.
Yeah.
It's very possible, by the way, especially when you add the complexity of European football, and higher expectations.
What then?
But like, am I the only one? I mean, people will let me know in the comments probably. But am I the only one who up until now has just like bought into the idea that, yes, progress is a thing that happens. You finish in the Champions League places, then you have a title challenge and it goes in that order. As opposed to, no, seasons are independent from each other. You can finish 4th and then have United season.
Yeah, you can, but I think for the big clubs, it's very difficult. Like, there's not much logic behind that, and that shouldn't be happening to them.
That's what I mean, but it seems to, at least, I mean, maybe Arsenal are the perfect example of progression, because they feel like Arsenal are so, I mean, I'm going to get shit for this. They're so boring compared to last year, and I mean that in a positive way. Mm-hmm. They're mature.
Yeah, they feel less like that young kind of up and coming side now. They're much more like, let's control this. This
is probably just Instagram algorithm at me. But I see people being like, me when I was 21, it's like in the club, and then me at 23, and it's like in like yoga pants, kind of like that's kind of Arsenal.
Yeah.
But then you ask like who's got a better quality of life, and it's a 23-year-old.
Yeah.
That to me is Arsenal.
Arsenal do have a better quality of life now. They actually, that's a really good point. Yeah, like there were some heady days, which maybe like if you don't live them out, like that's kind of like, there are a lot of people who are still trying to live their early 20s in their late 20s. Yeah. That is like the manager who's still trying to win the league, still trying to get the title. That could be Liverpool and Klopp if they hadn't won it that year.
Or it's Liverpool who never stopped pressing as high. Or it's Arsenal who never decided to be as boring, good defensively.
Right. Well, Arsenal have themselves, they're top of the league. They're not guaranteed that for Christmas because I think they're not guaranteed actually. Premier League table. If Liverpool win against them, if Liverpool do win against them, then there will be 2 points ahead of them. Yeah.
Sorry, before we leave Liverpool totally.
But also, if Arsenal win, they'll be 4 points ahead.
Mo Salah's gone for the African Cup of Nations.
Yeah.
Do you know how long he's got? How many games he might miss?
It's normally about 4. But it depends on the fixture, congestion, and those kind of things. It depends on how deep they get, that kind of thing. But even then, it tends to be about 6 or 7.
And are Liverpool fans, I'm not asking you necessarily, like, wanting Egypt to crash out in the group stages? Or is it like, go Mo, win something?
I think it depends on how Liverpool are doing. We actually didn't miss either Salah or Mane in the last one. And I think Naby Keita maybe was gone. But I think Naby Keita was gone for the entirety of his Liverpool career. So
Naby Keita was actually more available when he was playing in Africa.
It'll matter more because of people like if Jota's still out, those kind of like, yes, James Alcott made a really good point that I think a few people felt as well is if Jota is in the Liverpool squad yesterday, he's a guarantee to bring on. It's like, we need a goal, we need to be direct on that side, we need someone who's going to force the ball into the net. Diogo Jota's that kind of guy, and it didn't feel like they had that sub in them.
I can already see like the all Portuguese spat with Dalot.
Sure.
I feel like he's after he gets sent off.
Pretty perfect, by the way, as a position for position. Dalot is probably one of United's best players. Their whole back line I thought was very good. Luke Shaw had a point to prove. Varane was still coming back in, by far the deepest player, one who was basically just clearly just trying to sit there and go, let me watch this game and just manage it from back here, not let's get into it.
Varane reminded me of how he used to play in the Champions League for Real Madrid and in the World Cup of France, which is just, I'll head everything away.
Yeah. And
unfussy.
Like, yeah, like no idea about let's play it in this certain way or that certain way. It's
By the
just
way,
get away.
Johnny Evans, I feel bad for him because he did not come in. Just like he was obviously sensible. Why not sign someone for no money as far as they're concerned?
He's a legend as well.
And also, like he's a goods defender. He's probably a top championship defender. He's like Conor Cody, a Leicester kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he's a totally reasonable cover. Anyway, I feel a bit bad for him.
Why?
Because he just looks. I mean, he didn't yesterday, mind. He did very well.
Yeah, he did.
At times, he looks a little bit exposed. And I feel a little bit bad because he wasn't brought in to have Salah running at him.
But that was what was good for him in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, United sat so deep yesterday, there was never really a chance to run past him. He was basically in his own box.
This was the Chris Smalling paradox. It was like he was unbelievable when there were people around him.
Yeah.
And he could grab someone there and just direct and talk and head. Awesome. But then it's like he would play the European final for Roma and wasn't even on like the long list for England because England don't want to play in such a way where we do that.
I get that. I also understand the need from Manchester United to sort of play needs must kind of football. Like obviously you're not going to play too high against Liverpool if you have Johnny Evans and Rafa Varane. I still feel like there's a more expansive style of football there. And what's weird is like in previous years when Van Dijk was out and all these other players were out, the expectation from Manchester United fans very directly was, well, you should still play football. Like, come on.
I think the weird thing, I think they might have stopped doing the second half, is they were like super deep, but were playing out from the back in a way that was like
weird.
Tifo usually come out with something really good when when teams set up with like an abstract goal kick system. When there's like three of them 2 yards from each other.
Which there were yesterday.
Yeah, the best explanation I heard when they did that at the Emirates last year, Maguire would take it 2 yards to De Gea.
Right.
And there was something about beating the press.
Yeah.
It was like, well, if De Gea plays it to Maguire outright, Arsenal's press focuses on the right.
Yeah.
Whereas if you play it to the goalie in the middle, you're or something.
It just makes it easier to play through them.
But it didn't feel like the time to do it.
Yeah.
It felt like It felt like someone has like a heart attack on the plane and you're like, well, I have a doctorate in interpretive dance.
Yeah.
And then you start like doing like a resuscitation dance.
Yeah.
It's like, let's do this once we're fine.
Can you do this later? Yeah.
Like the centre forward whose name I can never pronounce.
Yeah.
Hojlund.
Yeah. I think Hojlund.
He's like 6 foot something. Give him the ball. He wants it.
I did. I think that would have been a bit unfair. So I felt like this is not. It's also weird because everyone was trying to make this game the game that was like the overarching narrative for both Liverpool and United, and neither of them. It didn't really fit. It kind of fit perfectly, but it doesn't fit for everyone within the team. Hojlund was just. He's still young. He's probably one of the games where you least want to go like, let's go one-on-one, Van Dijk or Konate, who do I take? Like, it's fun, but it's like, you're still isolated up there. Who are you going to pass the ball off to? Garnacho or whoever else?
Well, Scott McTominay, who I feel, side note,
the 10.
I feel redeemed about him because I've been saying I like Scott McTominay for years and years. Cool. And he's now looks like a very capable footballer in a range of positions, but he's not who you want. If you're Van Dijk on your back and you got Konate kicking you and Tsimikas in your ear, like
it's not what you want.
You want Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, you know what? I actually realised the second that Bruno got that yellow card, Liverpool were going to draw that game or lose it because it changed the midfield constitution. If you've got Bruno in the 10 rather than Scott, it's a whole other game.
It's actually worth saying, that midfield 3, Amrabat just doesn't look mobile enough for the Premier League.
Yeah, that was weird, I actually thought, because I felt like one of his big things was almost mobility. Like, I felt like on the international level, and that was probably that one clip.
Of Mbappe?
Yeah, where he catches him up. And now everyone goes, mobile.
Yeah, so this was me. You've just described. So yesterday, if you haven't seen it, there's this clip where Mbappe, France versus Morocco, which was a fixture that happened.
Yeah.
Group stage, I assume. Yeah. I don't remember. Anyway, but Mbappe gets the ball out wide and is like gone. Yeah. And Amrabat's like covers, slides in brilliantly and then does the thing all defenders do. goalkeepers have an equivalent where they make a tackle and then like shout at someone.
Yeah.
Or I can't really remember the clip, but it's either that or it's the like encouraging clap, and everyone goes, "Give him the armbands."
That was kind of it, and Morocco was sort of like the darlings of that World Cup, and rightly so. But I also felt like he looks a little bit heavier, not like fat, but I just mean like he doesn't look strong. He looks like he's trying to beef up, and that's fair enough. Like, you know, your body's got to go through what it's got to go through to beef up, but it seems to mean that he like had to pull a couple of people down. There were a couple of frustrated tackles, like Luke Shaw put in a horrible one or a weird one.
It was an orange. It was an orange card.
Yeah, it wasn't really that vicious. I thought it was a yellow.
When you cut across him,
in the moment you go, "That's a red," but then when you watch the replay, actually it's a yellow because it looked vicious, and Konate went down pretty badly. But that's because he's a big guy. If you side him down, he's going to go down pretty badly.
Also, Mainoo, who looks absolutely great.
He looks good. I think he got a bit lost in that midfield, but I actually can't think of a midfielder who didn't get lost in that midfield.
And I thought on the ball he looked very composed.
Yeah, very composed.
The thing I want to say about him is he is so FM regen.
Yeah.
Like someone I'd never heard of prior to like 2 months ago, without a first name as far as I can tell, like a Nani or Anderson or like Fred for Brazil.
He's totally got that.
And just like comes straight into the side and does functional. It's like sports interactive are getting increasingly involved in the Premier League and in real life. They've just invented a regen.
Yeah, and I think he's clearly really ridiculously talented. He's kind of at his like lightweight kind of McKenna when he first came through. Just drop any player in here who's slightly too light at the moment, but has the, you know, even Trent when he first came through. Name any young player who came through at United or Liverpool. They just didn't quite have the muscle to compete in those areas, but they had the guile or they had the...
Yeah, also Mainoo, we were talking about this off air. Goodison Park, St. James's Park, Anfield.
Horrible.
Christ.
All those away fixtures
all
as well.
Away fixtures.
Yeah.
He hasn't played at Old Trafford yet in the Premier League, at least not from the start.
Save that for a little while. That's a nice one. I like that. Should we talk about the Champions League draw? Just because I've not made an individual video on that.
And it just happened.
Relatively just happened. Let's talk just overall about the draw. Round of 16. Obviously, the Europa League hasn't been drawn yet, so I can't talk about my Liverpool, but we can talk about Arsenal away to Porto in the first leg and City away to Copenhagen in the first leg. Which obviously means the home leg is then second leg. Does home and away really matter anymore if there are no home and away goals? Do you think it matters?
Only a little, no. I mean,
not in the same way.
It used to be actually that you like, even though wanted to be at home second, maybe you didn't. Because like there was this extra time thing where like you had half an hour longer to concede a away goal.
That was also an away goal.
Yeah, it was like
that was weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, this is a pretty disappointing draw.
You have the yellow card derby, which is Inter Milan versus Atletico Madrid.
That's probably the most. Actually, no, it's the second most exciting game of the round. The first one is Napoli-Barcelona, the Maradona derby.
Sorry, why do I think Mourinho is going to get sent off in the Atletico one, despite managing neither team?
Yeah,
it just has that feel about.
He's still in one of the boxes and managed to get sent off somehow. Mourinho. How many of these teams has Mourinho managed? He's managed Real Madrid, Inter.
That'll be it, unless because no Chelsea, no Roma, Porto.
And Porto. That was the other team I was looking at. My eyes were doing everything, but I saw the Arsenal badge and was like, well, he's not managed Arsenal.
Yeah.
And then obviously Chelsea and Manchester United aren't in there.
Nor Tottenham.
Good point. Very good point. But maybe next season. Leipzig versus Real Madrid. Not really a chance of an upset there for me. I think, they did what they did.
When in the game do you think Jude will score his header? I'm saying on half-time.
That's a nice call, but I think 33 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. PSG, Real Sociedad. This is not going to be a competition either. Like, I know people are probably shouting.
PSG have done well there, by the way, because they finished second in their group. So they could have had a really tough game.
And that's kind of what you wanted.
Newcastle will look at that and be a bit gutted.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, if Newcastle or Manchester United had gone through here, this draw becomes a lot tastier. PSV versus Dortmund.
Yeah, Dortmund's on paper, but I don't know enough about PSG.
PSV. Yeah.
PSV.
That's as much as you know. Lazio versus Bayern. It's tasty because, there's a little bit of the right wing mixed in there.
Someone at Lazio will do something fascist.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a talking point.
That's literally, I actually think that's the club motto.
Do something fascist.
Yeah, do something fascist. One of us will do something fascist.
The question is, who?
Yeah, we'll never know.
I reckon it's the bald guy with the big, not microphone, what am I?
Tannoy. It's not like a tannoy, but megaphone.
Megaphone.
Yeah, megaphone.
The bald guy with tattoos. The eagle tattoo and the megaphone.
Yeah. Apparently, draw-wise, Arsenal have the easier side of the draw. This was going to be one of my big predictions. I'm kind of drafting a video at the moment for big predictions for 2024. One of them was, before the draw, Arsenal will make it to the Champions League final.
We spoke about this at the end of a pod last week. I see it.
Yeah.
They've got the well-rounded maturity defense. They just have the balance right between being solid at the back and dangerous going forward. Whereas City, who are better than them, City are better than them more or less, don't feel like they have that balance right.
Right, and I think City obviously aren't going to lose to Copenhagen, but there's a number of sides where I don't think it could be. I don't think it will be.
Who's
Arsenal
the worst?
versus City.
Who's the worst side on Arsenal's?
I'm not quite sure at the moment because I've not got the arms up. But I think. Let me see what I can get here. Arsenal, UEFA doesn't even really show the sides of the draw at the moment, or where people can go.
By the way, I think having sides of the draw is such nonsense. I much prefer the way they used to do it, which is you had no idea who you were playing until. Right. Do you know what I mean? Because it used to slightly suck knowing we beat Copenhagen, but then we got Barcelona. It was much funner to go. All that we know is Copenhagen.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there isn't a round of side of the draw, whatever it is. Meet your round of 16 opponents. Maybe Arsenal.
There usually is, isn't there?
Maybe.
Maybe not.
Maybe not this year. I don't know. Anyway, should I just go Champions League brackets? I don't think that's going to work. I'd be surprised if it does. Brackets. Bracket. No, that's last year. Previous year.
I was a bit of a dinosaur about one format of football, European football, last week, namely the new Champions League group stages. But I want to get onto this new format, debuting in 2025.
Which I hate.
Christ. Okay, so the context here is the Club World Cup, which everyone is familiar with, from an English side occasionally playing a team from Argentina who take it very seriously.
The FIFA Club World Cup is scheduled for June to July 2025.
It's almost a month. It has 32 teams, including, I think, 6 English teams, maybe more. And
6? Yeah,
and I think, Google it, I think the deal is it's all the English winners in the last cycle, quote unquote.
Right.
But then I think it's every 4 years, this.
Great. Something else.
But then there's also a coefficient qualifying thing. So they're kind of flirting with the Super League again. Porto have qualified, I think I read. In any case, it's a month. So what that basically means is, actually, it's a good question. If this is an annual tournament, we can literally kiss goodbye summer for... How often is this Club World Cup?
I think it's every 4 years.
Are you sure? Because it's currently every year. There was a Club World Cup last year, right?
FIFA Council met ahead of the FIFA Club World Cup 2023 semi-finals in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and took key decisions in relation to the first 32-team FIFA Club World Cup, which will be played in the United States in 2025. The competition's official name is Mundial de Clubs, FIFA.
Quite cool.
And will feature clubs from each of the 6 confederations. The council unanimously confirmed the club ranking methodology. Great. With the objective of ensuring the highest quality possible based on sporting criteria over the most recent 4 seasons. In case the European clubs doesn't say how often this new Club World Cup is going to be. Tournament dates confirmed. The first edition will take place between the 15th of June and the 13th of July 2025. The dates have been set. Blah blah blah. Tournament format doesn't say.
Google Club World Cup 2026.
Good point. Club World Cup 2026. FIFA World. It just says FIFA. So the FIFA World Cup is actually that summer. So they'd be silly. To do
Oh,
that.
so it might have to be alternative summers.
Probably.
But like, can we just talk about this? Because that would
How
be
does that work?
That would be the end of summer breaks for footballers at the top level.
They've also got the FIFA Intercontinental Cup to be played annually from 2024. Honestly, they sneak this shit out.
I know, and they do it, and no one really understands it because it's so complicated and uninspiring.
Following the council's approval in March 2023 of an annual FIFA club competition as of 2024, featuring all Confederation Premier Club competition champions, and concluding with the final at a neutral venue between the UEFA Champions League winners and the winners of the Intercontinental play-off between clubs from the other confederations, it is agreed the official name. They seem to just meet and agree the official names. That's how they get it through.
Laurence,
they go, we've renamed the competition. And everyone goes, any change in anything else? They go, only mild stuff.
I like football a lot. That's why we're here sitting
We don't
here.
need this.
I don't want this.
I don't need this.
Also, this will.
I don't like the money-making machine. I get it. My club may make more money from this. I don't want to make more money from this.
This will interrupt the month.
Give us the cash.
Yeah, this will interrupt the 1 month every year I like cricket as well.
Right.
Like I really enjoy that window when I'm worried about like Ollie Pope's like footwork. It's a really nice break for me.
Yeah,
I feel like this is encroaching.
It's an anti-environment to everything else you know.
Exactly, yeah.
The final stages would be scheduled by FIFA in consultations with the clubs and the confederations. I think this is part of the problem is at the moment there doesn't seem to be much of a gap for any more football. Now, I get it. There are literal gaps in the calendar during the year for more football. But a real issue right now is player burnout, players getting a lot of injuries,
Red
players
zone.
playing almost constantly, playing within the red zone, people, very high-profile players, getting regular injuries and burning out towards the end of their career. I mean, there are a number of players who played in the old schedule and, you know, Fernando Torres, Michael Owen, to think of two, obviously two Liverpool-based examples, but two players who burned out towards the end of their career.
Two Madrid-based examples.
Two Madrid-based examples, sure. Two Judas-based examples, because they both burned out towards the end of their career, it's fair to say. And whilst they were still good players and still had a mind of a footballer, their body wasn't quite the same constitution because it was just worn out from sheer exertion. And I get it, like, you know, medical techniques nowadays are fantastic, all these kind of things. And you want to make as much money, you want to be as famous, you want the game to go as far and wide as possible. I think they've taken a lot of the concepts we hold dear, which are things like spread the word of the game, spread equality through the game, as whatever equality means to FIFA, all this kind of thing. And they're using it just as a cash-making exercise.
And also, it depends what you want, because I hate watching games that are supposed to be amazing, but the players are knackered. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, Newcastle went to Bournemouth, lost, went to Everton, got dumped. Mm-hmm. And you just were like, hold your hands up, they're exhausted.
And what are you supposed to do about it? And it's kind of like, oh, well, that's football. Like, oh, well, your team have loads of money. We'll just fix that. People are trying to treat it as pieces almost, as just like, well, you just play in the machine, like you'll be here and then you'll be gone next year.
Yeah, people say like, well, other sports, they can play more than twice a week. I mean, tennis, to be fair, it is ridiculous. They play 5 hours, just to them, explosive movement, and they go again the next day.
Sure, and the tennis tournament, I think, is also like they're very consolidated periods. It's one person.
But with that said, so I'm not, the violin isn't coming out for footballers. But equally, as fans, we want to see good games.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't want to see bang average games. Anyway, UEFA, I mean, this is FIFA's fault. Although I'm sure they've got UEFA's buy-in. It sucks. And like, no one takes these competitions seriously either.
I think I would look forward to more. And, you know, maybe FIFA are aiming for this. I'd love it if it was a little less corporate. I'd love it if it was a little less, like, I'd love it if any of these announcements, which go out every so often, at all engaged me and made me feel like excited for something, or like, hey, here's how we're changing things and it's better for you. And I don't mean even as a content creator. I mean as someone who loves watching sport and therefore football, is like, why is this better for me?
And
why, not like, hey, we're growing the game or any of this stuff. Like the literal core fans who watch football every day. How is this better for us? What am I getting from this?
And I can give you a much better competition if they're going to do it. You take the best 150 players in the world, have them line up in a playground.
Mm-hmm.
Playground pick
style. Does it have to be a playground?
Yes.
Right.
Football cage /
sure,
playgrounds.
Right, wow. Okay, you're talking about the Nike.
Yeah. Thank you. And you have captains nominated, and I don't care if journalists suggest them or UEFA I don't care.
It sounds a lot like the NBA All-Star Weekend. You do know that, right?
I didn't know that, but
Right. The captains from the NBA All-Star Weekend actually pick their teams and those.
But I want it where they're like, we'll take Fabinho, and Fabinho sort of trots over sheepishly.
That's literally what happens. And then there's also like there's jokes between some of the players where they're like, "Oh, you're just picking him because you want him to come and play for your team." And then like, a season later, they're like, "Hey, come."
Wait, Laurence, let's do this. Let's make this happen.
I feel like that would be really cool. I also feel like we have this discussion, and we will have it again in February when the All-Star Weekend rolls around. I'll probably have a little video series started by then where we go, wouldn't it be cool if there was like an All-Star Weekend in football? And everyone goes, yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be North versus South for England. And like the teams from the North, they just absolutely batter the fans from the South. And then we like, and they draw them, right? And we get into all of this. And then at the end of it, everyone goes, yeah, sounds quite corporate. Let's not do that. So like the idea of it off the top of your head is always like, this sounds really cool to some people. But then when you actually speak the idea out, you go, yeah, but all these guys hate each other. Like, you know.
Question for you: Who would your first pick be? You are manager Laurence McKenna, and you have the best 150 players lined up.
Is it midway through the season and are the players taking it seriously?
They're taking it seriously, and they're all fit. This is I don't know the answer.
For me, it's probably...
You could go massively hipster.
I think...
Josh Kimmich is so hipster.
Oh, wow. You're even going European. I thought you were just going English.
No. I'm talking... This is...
Kimmich just doesn't have the European legs, does he?
That's
I think you need someone who's a busy European midfielder. It's got to be someone who's like... There's almost a cap... Am I picking who my captain is or who my starting player is?
Like, there's another 9 teams. So if you don't pick Messi, he's going to be gone.
Messi's involved in this.
Oh, yeah. It's the best 100...
Weirdly, I wouldn't pick Messi.
Is it Mbappe?
Would I pick Messi?
Is it Bellingham?
I don't think Bellingham.
No, because I mean, like, I think your options are genuinely Haaland, Mbappe, Messi, Bellingham.
I think it's Bellingham.
That's so cool.
Also, because I feel like what Bellingham would do in this game and during the week of like training leading up to it is go, lads, I'm not even going to play attacking. Whatever, how you do it for me. Lads, I'm not even going to play attacking. I'm going to play like a little bit deeper because we play this thing triquartista at Madrid, and everyone's like, yeah, all right, cool, man, whatever. And he just sits deep and just like sprays the ball around. And it's him, and weirdly, because this is also what happens on All-Star Weekend, a lot of the players go, don't pick him because he's coming to us. So they know they know who's going to get what. So it'd be him and like Trent sitting side by side.
Trent
They'd
would
make
be a
a
good
friendship, and Trent would be like, oh, maybe Madrid does appeal.
Yeah, Trent would be a good hipster one.
Trent's a really good hipster one because then people also go, in the All-Star Weekend, do you even play a right back?
Oh, this is great. Also, you could make it 8-a-side. Laurence, let's do that. Let's forget this and do that.
I do think reducing the number of players on the pitch
is quite cool.
To like a 7 or a 5-a-side is a really sick idea.
Also,
even a 3-a-side.
Also, awesome. it makes it different enough. But I don't want FIFA. I want to implement this. FIFA will fuck it up. FIFA will make it.
They'll over-corporatize it. It'll be one of those things where they focus more on customizing the boxes for Visa than they do actually making rules for the game. And overall, a tournament in which a lot of clubs are going to compete, it worries me just a little bit. I'll put it that way. Like I don't hate the idea of a Club World Cup. I think it's a really nice like nucleus of an idea. But I think the execution and the implementation of it is very poor. I think it's a really poor time of the year for anyone to play. I don't want to see my Liverpool side stepping out between June and July. I think it shows a disregard for players' health. I think it shows a disregard for thought around club calendars. I think this could have been implemented as a pre-season style format in which time, that would also give smaller or bigger teams the opportunity to test out other players. I think within it, there should be rules like to limit the amount of players that the big sides can play, or to say you have to play a certain number of homegrown players, all these kind of things.
If you were going to do this, I think the way to do it would be to do it as the 6 confederations, and you would basically just say for every 4 years, 24-team tournaments, which I know is an awkward number, but nonetheless. And it's just whoever's won the Champions League of those 4 years, or won the African equivalent, or won the South American equivalent, and you make it a proper World Cup and you get people excited about it and teams bid to host it. Like some weird faffed up 32-team thing.
I get it, but I don't.
No.
And I also just think it looks a little bit light, and it looks just a little... I get it. Like by the time the tournament comes around, it's going to be cool, and it's going to be like everyone will be into it because goal.com will go. and lots of other people who are totally relevant will go, and they'll pay a load of people to go, and it'll be like, cool, hey, the fans here are amazing.
The Saudi teams in it does make it slightly interesting. Like, I'm interested in how good I'm interested in like what Porto versus a top Saudi team looks like visually.
What it looks like visually, I know how it's going to go, but what it looks like visually, I totally get.
Like,
it's going to look weird seeing like Fabinho or Henderson or whoever
alongside
playing,
someone you don't know.
Yeah, because they just look like they've been generated for like a UNICEF thing.
Yeah, that is quite harsh, but quite fair. I've thought that without thinking that before, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, this is like not quite a charity game.
It's not, yeah, but it doesn't feel real. Like,
Yeah.
we've got that. Yeah, I think maybe there's a whole chat or podcast based around just tournament formulation in general. And maybe that will come in the coming weeks and days and months.
We could get someone on who, like, there's someone I know who's specializes in games.
Love that.
And like game structure.
That's cool.
And how narrative gets like.
How can you pass go in a football match? I'd love to know. Like,
great question.
Is there like a community chest style thing going on here?
The equivalent of passing go. This is too good for go, but is like, you know, when you get a community chest and it's like, you need the cash. It's like go to go 400. Is like Dallo getting randomly sent off for the opposition.
Sure.
Like, an opposition player gets booked twice in 1 minute. Collect 400.
There's just got to be something like that where it's like, you know, you start 2-0 up or something. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
There's got to be some format which helps the other teams and like, that's also kind of it. All of these tournaments kind of miss the beauty of football, which is basically like people like being equal. And with the winners of the Champions League just like sailing in and just kind of getting straight to the final or whatever it is, or the semi-final or whatever, it just sort of misses it feels so corporate. It's like, cool, you flew on a private jet and then you had virtually no time to train. So who cares? And you barely care about this, but you're a competitive person, so you're going to play.
But you're
not going to be 100%.
Oh, I know. Just something I want to pick up quickly is oh my god, who is the legendary Gillette Soccer Saturday host?
Jeff
Stelling. Jeff Stelling. I saw Jeff Stelling, I don't know if you caught this, making quite an impassioned point about how they should seed the FA Cup third round. And the idea here was...
Yeah, he does a lot of this where like things which are just like sort of normal points to other people. Jeff does like a really impassioned rant about it.
But I wanted to talk about this because I support a lower league team who would in theory benefit and not benefit. So his idea was every team not in the Premier League and Championship in the third round is seeded against a Premier League and Championship team. The idea being more money and better games.
Sure.
But I thought it missed the point in an interesting way, which is that two things. One is you'd lose all the chances of getting to the fourth round, fifth round, quarterfinals.
Relatively. You'd hope that fixture congestion or whatever would maybe take out a couple of the good players from the Premier League team or whatever, and therefore there's a giant killing.
Probably, but it's equally fun, I can tell you from experience, beating a League Two team in the third round to being in the fourth round.
Right.
But the other thing is, and this is maybe where the link is, too much of a good thing isn't fun anymore. And the nice thing about a giant killing is or a big game is it happens every 3 years, 4 years for you.
Right, and this is kind of where and that's where the FA Cup like ebbs and flows, because it sort of goes through these periods where like, I remember where like Luton were pretty good in the FA Cup for a little while, or Yeovil had like a
Sutton had their run to the quarters.
Right, like, and there's all these kind of things. And it feels similar where now what they're trying to do is back to back to back to back to back, like big, in inverted commas, tournaments. And when we can't do the World Cup, we'll do another thing. Why? Well, there's more profit to be had. There's like a bigger way of growing the game. And it's just this like really soft way of inserting more, basically ways to be a football consumer into our lives. And I know that sounds cynical, and maybe we should just be, maybe that's why they love the content creators that go to these places. And I'll probably be one of those people that wants to go to a tournament like this. It's like, I want to go but I would love to be able to make an actual documentary, an actual piece documenting actual things that go on there, rather than just like, it's happening, I happen to be near it whilst it's happening. It's like, imagine if someone done that about 9/11. It's like, it happened.
Hey guys, your boy here.
Yeah, it's your boy, and some weird stuff's going down in Manhattan today, and I just want to look in and let you guys know. Like, don't forget to check in and hit the like button.
And thank you to Shopify for sponsoring this tragedy.
Yeah, and every like is one prayer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
well, speaking of football documentaries, I'm going to forget the name of it, but let me just plug the Hollands didn't qualify for which World Cup? 2002, I want to say.
Yeah.
And
like
in
that.
the final, 2 Dutch video journalists organized and flew in and made it happen, a game between the 2 worst teams in the world according to the world rankings.
Wow.
And they like had on the same day as the World Cup final, and they made a documentary about it.
That's cool.
Which I now forget the name of, but it's
you're really quite evangelic about this documentary because you've mentioned this a few times off.
Have I?
So, yeah. But that's
Oh,
good.
yeah, cool.
We'll look it up. We'll put a link to it in the description. Jamie will send it to me later, and he'll even write the copy that goes alongside it because it saves me a real arse pain. Thank you very much for watching the podcast, otherwise known as The Graphic. We will be making a specific channel just for this and possibly even a specific podcast feed. I'm trying to work it out. I'm trying to work out how this works.
Yeah, it's worth saying, if you have any suggestions for formats within this kind of context,
Yeah,
just give us a shout because we are listening.
we have quite a few. Good to chat to you. Thanks a lot for coming along.
Thanks, mate. Enjoyed it.
And we'll see you guys probably Thursday, right? Yeah.
By which point UEFA will have had made a new competition.
Yeah, and Liverpool will either be out of like if I look at Liverpool fixtures, I think Liverpool are playing West Ham midweek. Yeah, in the quarterfinals of the EFL Cup. And that's obviously preceding Saturday, 5:30, Liverpool versus Arsenal.
Is that at West Ham?
Both at Anfield, actually.
Oh, that's such a weird... Okay, we'll finish up here, but I find that weird. Like, if you're an away fan who goes to all the games, do you go to both of them? Like, are you really going to Liverpool twice in 3 days? I always wonder.
If I'm an away fan?
Yeah, if like you're West Ham, if you're West Ham and you go home and away,
Yeah.
and like you really do,
Yeah.
are you like, oh God's sake, am I stay? Are you
No,
working
because
from
they
Liverpool?
play Arsenal on the weekend.
Oh, well then West Ham fans have lots of travel.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, I think it'd be weird if West Ham fans went to the Arsenal away game, but fair play. I get what you mean, though. Liverpool play Arsenal 3 times in the next 6 weeks. That's a good preview. Thank you very much for watching the podcast. Please hit like. Please leave a comment down below. We love the interaction of you guys. We love chatting to you. Jamie in particular. I think someone left a comment last week where I was going to comment back. You couldn't be more wrong. Someone was like, Jamie really lowers the standard of this channel or something.
He was perceptive, to be fair.
And I felt really annoyed by it. And then I went to comment and it broke my heart that you'd already commented back. So thanks a lot for watching the podcast, guys. We'll see you guys again real soon right here on this channel. Goodbye.
Right. That was fun, mate. I enjoyed that.
Good fun.